Welcome to MALDEF's 2017 Chicago Awards Gala. Tonight is brought to you by the generous support of our co-chair, Walmart, helping communities save money and live better. MALDEF is grateful for the support of its national sponsor, Toyota, our national airline sponsor, Southwest Airlines, and our national law firm partner, the Sidley Austin Foundation. Tonight, MALDEF is proud to honor Phil Fuentes, McDonald's owner-operator and chairman of McDonald's Hispanic Operators Association. Mary Meg McCarthy, executive director of the National Immigrant Justice Center. And Carlos Tortolero, founder and president of the National Museum of Mexican Art. Please welcome your master of ceremonies for this evening, reporter for ABC7 Eyewitness News, Michelle Gallardo.
Welcome. If I can just have you all take your seats so that we can get started. Thank you so much. Buenas noches, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to MALDEF's 2017 Chicago Awards Gala. I'm Michelle Gallardo from ABC7 News, and I'm honored to be your host this evening. On behalf of MALDEF, we thank each of you for joining us. Tonight would definitely not be possible without your support, and I'm more than honored to be here to celebrate the victories of the Latino community with an organization that has been at the forefront of civil rights and community empowerment for almost 50 years. So thank you so much for all of you for being here. Now, we have a great program lined up and amazing honorees this evening. But before we recognize them, I want to share important information about MALDEF. MALDEF opened its doors in 1968 in San Antonio, Texas, following coordinated efforts by Latino lawyers and community activists from throughout the United States to create a legal organization that would serve the Latino community. Today, MALDEF is recognized as the Latino legal voice for civil rights in America. MALDEF's victories throughout the decades have been immeasurably benefiting for the Latino community, working to secure its right to a meaningful vote, to equal educational opportunities, to a non-discriminatory workplace, and to fairness and justice in government services. MALDEF has championed the rights of immigrants for nearly 5 decades, including the organization's landmark victory, Employer versus Doe, guaranteeing the right to a K-12 education regardless of immigrant status. Last June, the 15th, marked the 35th anniversary of the Plyler ruling. And because of MALDEF's efforts, Congress and legislatures around the country have been able to enact laws that are more respectful of our civil and constitutional rights. Now, while MALDEF has helped bring about significant gains in civil rights, we still have a long road ahead. We're grateful that MALDEF is committed to leading the fight in our courts to secure a better quality of life for Latinos throughout our great nation, and we're grateful to have your support to do this very, very important work. Now, our program this evening will celebrate the careers and accomplishments of several amazing individuals who have dedicated themselves to enriching the lives of everyone in the Latino community and safeguarding and expanding their civil rights. As you will see and hear, we owe them a great deal for their selflessness and their courage. We begin tonight by honoring a prominent local business leader, Chicago native, Mr. Phil Fuentes. He is the recipient of MALDEF's Corporate Social Responsibility Award. And Phil is also the owner and operator of 6 McDonald's restaurants in the Chicago area and the chairman of McDonald's Hispanic Operators Association. He's also the recipient of some of the highest honors awarded by McDonald's to its franchisees. In 2004, Phil was honored by McDonald's for its Global Award for Outstanding Owner-Operator of the Year, and he's also the recipient of the Ronald McDonald Award, which is presented annually to an individual franchisee who demonstrates outstanding community service. And Phil certainly has an amazing track record, that's right, of giving back to the community. Now, Phil serves on the board of directors of the Regional Transit Authority, the Urban Partnership Bank, and the Smithsonian Latino Center. He is also the chairman of the Institute of Latino Studies at the University of Notre Dame. I know. His work with Cook County and the Cicero Health Department in developing immunization program for inner city children earned him a presidential citation from the town of Cicero. MALDEF is pleased to join these and so many other organizations in recognizing these and many, many more accomplishments. So let's take a look at the tribute that MALDEF has prepared for Phil.
I just think it's great that MALDEF honors Phil Fuentes, a great businessman, family man, civic leader, and if you're a person with disabilities, he's why it's easier for you to access mass transit to go see your family or your doctors or go to the grocery store.
I'd like just to say to Phil and his family, thank you for all the great things that you do for El Valor, our families, our children, our participants. Thank you for the person that you are and your long-term commitment to El Valor.
I've learned that you need to take care of the neighborhoods, the communities where families are struggling every day just to make ends meet. And whether it's making sure that we have a bus route that runs up and down Ashland Avenue that serves a population that might not have access to automobiles.
Part of Phil's email is PMA, positive mental attitude. And I used to say, Phil, what is that? What is that all about? But if you know him long enough, you know that's part of it, the reason he's successful, because he doesn't let anything get in his way, doesn't let anything stop him or slow him down. More importantly, get him dejected. He really is one of the most positive people I've ever met.
Under Phil's leadership, the people with disabilities we served has nearly doubled over the course of about a 10-year period.
He's probably one of the best business people I know. And I say that best in the terms of not only is he a successful businessman, but he's also successful with his family, he's successful with his community. He knows he's a person that gives back to the community.
What drives Phil more than anything else is to see his kids' success. I'd love to talk about how his kids are an extension of him, but I'll be the first one to tell you that he's provided for them enough and they've taken it the rest of their life.
As a Latino, he understands his responsibility to give back to his community. And I think that that's part of his legacy, is to inculcate that vision that he has with other Latino business people.
Phil is a gregarious, very nice, accomplished businessman, but somebody who is a civic leader who advocates not only for the Mexican-American community, but for people with disabilities, especially in the communities in which he owns and operates his McDonald's franchises. He is just a great civic leader for all peoples.
He's recognized, not just here in Chicago, but nationally, as a leader in the McDonald's Corporation, but as a leader in our community.
You've attained what he has. Most people don't know how you got there. They just assume it came to him easily. It never came to him easily, like it probably didn't to most others. But I think his road was a little more difficult. And I think that's one of the things that stands out most for me.
What I'm proud of with Phil is, one, is that he gives back, but he provides that business acumen that we need. and he helps us kind of navigate through some really tough times and, you know, tough situations for us. Phil is just a shining example of what a business person should be. What I've learned from Phil is the idea that you could be a successful business person, but also have a commitment to the community, and also have that strong sense of family, and you can combine the three.
He simply cannot say no. He never refuses to do good.
Ladies and gentlemen, MALDEF is proud to present Phil Fuentes with the Corporate Social Responsibility Award.
Wow, I'd like to meet this guy. I'd like to start to congratulate Mary, Meg, and Carlos on their awards, well-deserved, and thank you for all you do for our community. Thank you to MALDEF for the award. This is truly an honor. My family, my wife, Marianne, my kids, Joe and Katie, for allowing me the time to give back. Craig at Back of the Yards, Dan at Rotary in Pilsen, Little Village, Ray at El Valor. Having firsthand experience with these organizations, they do make a difference. RTA Chairman Dillard for support in making a public transit system reliable, affordable, establishing a strong ADA paratransit system, and improving accessibility on our mainline systems, which is the key to getting people mobile, especially with people with disabilities. Chairman Burke for his leadership in City Council, supporting sanctuary status for Chicago, a city of immigrants. His efforts in improving city services for people that need them the most. And Justice Ann Burke for creating Special Olympics will celebrate its 50th anniversary. And it's a Chicago landmark, so get your checkbooks ready. I'd also like to mention the University of Notre Dame, which has opened its doors to dreamers from around the country, making sure they feel welcome and safe. Father Jenkins and his administration's commitment and support to dreamers is one I would hope more colleges and universities would adapt. When I think of MALDEF, one word comes to mind: access. Access to health care, access to the immigration process, which we need now more than ever, and access to education. Education is the key to opening opportunities for people to grow, build stronger communities to help stop the violence. We have a saying at McDonald's: it's better to be at the table than on the menu. With your support, MALDEF will be at the table. And just remember, order a Coke and fries with your Big Mac. Thank you.
So we're going to continue with our program now that is celebrating the careers and contributions of individuals who have dedicated their lives to protecting and expanding the civil rights of the Latino community. And I now have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mary Meg McCarthy, who we honor tonight with MALDEF's Excellence in Legal Service Awards. Don't worry, Meg, you've got a couple of minutes. You can swallow. Mary Meg McCarthy is Executive Director of the National Immigrant Justice Center, renowned nationally and globally as a leader in immigrant and human rights advocacy. Under McCarthy's leadership, NIJC contributes to national and international analysis, debate, and reform of immigration law, policy, and practices. She has built a network of 1,500 pro bono attorneys who provide legal services to thousands of individuals each year. In fact, she was one of that army of pro bono attorneys before she joined NIJC. An expert in immigration law, Mary Meg McCarthy has testified before Congress. She has appeared at the United Nations and participated in the Strategic Litigation for Change Conference, an international meeting in Belfast. She is often quoted in major news outlets, including MSNBC, the New York Times, and the Chicago Tribune. Why isn't ABC 7 Chicago included, I'm wondering, in this list? I think we should. Earlier in her career, Mary Meg McCarthy worked in local communities in Chile to help safeguard the rights of individuals under the Pinochet dictatorship. She has been recognized with many awards and just last month delivered the commencement address at Loyola University's School of Law. So let us take a look at the video profile that was prepared by MALDEF of Mary Meg McCarthy.
I think what drives Mary Meg is her sense of social justice, the importance of human rights, and also her very, very strong moral compass.
She and I worked together for so many years, but the very first time I met her, I knew that Mary Meg was someone that was extremely committed to the work she was doing. She was running an organization that I wanted to come and be a part of with her. Also, she's an open and extremely kind person, so it was someone that she is someone that I saw myself working with.
The biggest accomplishments that I can see is the level of respect that everybody has for her and her career, where even though, without knowing it in complete detail or in full, it's very clear that it's very accomplished. People talk to her not just because of the position that she's in, but with respect and admiration for the amount of impact and people that she's been able to help.
The most important thing that I have learned from Mary Meg is keeping in mind who we're serving and keeping in mind that we are to provide quality service in everything that we do to our individuals and the projects we bring, because the importance of having legitimacy in what we do is what's going to make the changes for our own clients, for the individuals.
The fact that Chicago has such a big organization committed to immigrant rights. Like when you talk about Chicago and the work that people are doing for immigrant rights, you have to talk about NIJC.
I think Mary Meg's legacy is to raise awareness about the issues that immigrants confront and engage individuals, particularly legal professionals, but also individuals from all walks of life, to really understand the importance of observing due process protections for immigrants, asylum seekers, and refugees who come to the United States.
Her greatest accomplishment is growing the Midwest Immigrant and Human Rights Center into what's now known as the National Immigrant Justice Center. When I first started working with Mary Meg, MERC had 4 or 5 employees. Now it has 75 to 80. MERC was the Midwest Immigrant and Human Rights Center. Now it's the National Immigrant Justice Center, and it really has a national scope and impact.
Mary Meg's going to leave a lot of legacies, but I think one of the big ones we've seen here in Chicago is just how many people, law firms, corporations, and so-called big law have gotten involved in pro bono immigration matters and really have become advocates for immigrants in ways that they would never be able to be in their regular practice. I think I just want to say congratulations, Mary Meg. It's very well deserved, and we're all proud to know you and work with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, MALDEF is proud to recognize Mary Meg McCarthy, with its award for excellence in legal service.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here. And as I was telling some of the guests this evening, I have to thank Tom for this invitation. A couple months ago, or maybe a year ago, I saw Tom on Michigan Avenue, and I was on the bus going home, and it was, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I text him, and I go, "Are you in Chicago and not inviting me to dinner?" So I guess this is my invitation. Thank you, Tom. But seriously, as has been mentioned earlier, we are at a historic moment right now. We are living through a full frontal assault on immigrant communities and non-citizens in the U.S. It has been particularly venomous toward Mexicans and the Mexican-American community, but few have been spared. In the name of restricting immigration, unscrupulous politicians, public officials, and propagandists have challenged the basic personhood and identity of a large segment of our neighbors and friends. As a human rights lawyer in the immigration practice, this hateful moment has reminded me that we need to approach immigrant rights more holistically. It's not a narrow legal battle. It has to be a broader social and cultural struggle. Something that vindicates the full personhood currently under threat. We need to forge a broad coalition to define and defend the personhood of individuals and the dignity of their communities. The kind of coalition that Moldov has often led. As has been noted this evening, 35 years after winning the landmark Plyler decision that reaffirmed the personhood of undocumented immigrant youth, Moldov continues to lead the way. Moldov continues to work hard and stand up to the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, the Department of Education, and other federal agencies. Sometimes it is the local school board, the county commission, or sheriffs, or state legislators. Moldov engages at all levels of government on a variety of issues: criminal law, voting rights, health care, education, and of course, immigration. In the last 6 months, immigration policy has received more attention than it has in the last 10 years. The current environment has exposed the lack of due process and human rights protections by individuals who enter the U.S. and are interrogated without an attorney at the airport, or a person who is in court finalizing the adoption of his children only to be arrested by immigration officials while walking out of the courthouse. Or the person who offered to help the officer with police written on his jacket to identify an individual in a photo, thinking he was helping the local police department make the community safer, only to learn that the officer was really an immigration officer who turned around and arrested him after he showed him his matricular card. Today, these issues are receiving a good bit of public attention, but the political and news cycles will almost certainly pivot away from immigration. As human rights defenders, we cannot get distracted. Our immigration system is the most opaque and secretive part of our government. It is a part of our government with little transparency or oversight. Now more than ever, we need human rights defenders and a broad base of people to monitor what is happening in the immigration system. This will require lawyers, educators, social workers, community organizers, journalists, and artists to be aware and vigilant, to document these abuses whenever they occur, and to provide this information to immigration attorneys and to help non-citizens secure legal representation before they are denied their legal rights and deported. In short, we need to keep people mobilized. With a mobilized community, we can keep the pressure on the government. When we keep the pressure on, we are able to stop them. With all the harsh rhetoric, immigration judges, asylum officers, and the federal courts have thwarted some of the most aggressive enforcement actions already and reined in some of the stuff that they do on an everyday basis. There is a growing gap between what the administration projects as its image and what is actually happening on the ground. Many of us in this room have the luxury to speak out. We can be a voice for those who don't enjoy that luxury, those who are facing hatred, detention, and deportation. Let us leave this room tonight committed to being that voice. I thank you for this award. It is humbling, and it really belongs to those courageous individuals who have spoken up within the immigrant communities, who have resisted bigotry and kept the real American dream alive, particularly immigrant youth and their families. I also must acknowledge my amazing colleagues, many who are here this evening, our pro bono attorneys, a few of them who are also with us tonight, and all of our supporters. They have been on the front lines. They have often faced those very difficult cases where individuals have limited options to defend against deportation. We look forward to continuing to fight for due process and human rights protections with MALDEF. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mary Meg, for your words and for your important work, which is so crucial, especially at this time. It is with great pleasure that I introduce our last honoree this evening, I should say last but not least, Mr. Carlos Tortolero, recipient of MALDEF's Lifetime Achievement Leadership in the Arts Award. Now, most of you probably know Carlos is the founder and president of the National Museum of Mexican Art right here in Chicago. The museum was founded in 1982. It opened its doors in 1987. And 10 years later, it became the first Latino museum accredited by the American Alliance of Museums. To put that achievement in context, it wasn't until last year that the Alliance accredited a second Latino museum. Under Carlos's guidance, the National Museum of Mexican Arts has become a model for its exhibits, performances, arts, education programs, advocacy of cultural equity issues, and for how museums need to change. The museum has organized 20 exhibitions that have traveled across the United States, 8 that have traveled to Mexico, in addition to the 10,000 pieces in its permanent collection. The museum also has an expansive performing arts program, and its educational program is a national leader. The National Museum of Mexican Art is the only organization in the country to have won 2 White House Awards for excellence in youth arts programming, owing in part to Carlos's previous career as a teacher, counselor, and administrator in the Chicago public school system from 1975 to 1987. His vision and dedication has earned him invitations to serve on the boards of the University of Illinois, the American Alliance of Museums, the Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs, the Smithsonian Latino Center, the Illinois Humanities Council, and Choose Chicago. He's won numerous awards for his work, including the OHTLI Award, the highest honor given by the Secretary of Foreign Relations of Mexico in recognition of individuals who have distinguished themselves in the services of the Mexican community outside of Mexico. So now let's take a look at the video that MALDEF produced to tribute his work.
Carlos' accomplishment includes many. Number one, as a teacher, he impacted me. He literally pushed me and encouraged me to continue my higher education. He was the first one that told me back 40 years ago that I could do it, that I could go to college and actually get a college degree. And at that time, there weren't too many Latino role models impacting students and young people. And so Carlos has touched many lives throughout the city. So I know people know him because of his cultural impact in the city of Chicago, but he has a long-standing impact of what he's done with many youth throughout the city when he's impacted them, including myself, with encouraging us to go to higher learning and education. And as a result, I did finish my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. It's those people who impact your life that make a difference in the youth of the Latino community in the city of Chicago.
Well, as everybody knows, Carlos is a very shy person, very reserved individual, very quiet person. Not really, though. I think what I really appreciate about Carlos is that you don't have to be confused about anything Carlos says. He will be very direct about what his goals are, and has no hesitation in letting people know that the museum, either in whatever it's addressing, needs assistance, needs support, needs to go in a certain direction, and I think that's been a good quality.
From a dream that started in 1982 with a group of teachers, he grew this place from a small field house to a 50,000 square foot facility that is now celebrated all over the world. So that is, to me, is one of his greatest achievements.
What drives Carlos, I think it's his passion for the work that he does. Carlos, since I've known him, he's always been very dedicated to the work that he's been able to accomplish in the city of Chicago. He was an early pioneer of establishing a leading Latino cultural arts organization now known as the National Museum of Mexican Art. So he always had a commitment to pursue excellence for his culture, and I think that the work that he's done throughout the years really is a testimony towards that.
It's not just about the artists here in Chicago, but he has worked with artists across the country and throughout Mexico. His legacy is how he has provided that platform for artistic celebration, for conversations about what it means to be Mexican, about what it means to be in our society and our contribution to the society.
Shy and reserved. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Carlos Tortolero to the stage.
Thank you. You know, the first people I have to thank is the staff of MALDF. They've been really, really nice. But you know, when an email said if I want to use, teleprompter, I hardly can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Okay, so how I'm going to use this, I have no idea. So I get this. The second was they said if I have any pictures of me as a kid, why would I expose you to my pictures of kids when you people just stayed? There'd be a mad rush to the washroom. So I'm a nice guy, kept it out. Okay. Now, I really have to say to MALDF, thank you very, very much. Your work is so important, especially in this time, so I can't thank enough. This award means a lot to me, Tom. It really does. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I also have the great luck. I have an amazing family. My wife is here, my kids over there. You can have them. No, they're really great. I'm kind of shy, remember that, okay? No, it really is a great family. I'm very, very blessed, very, very blessed. I also have a great board and a great staff. They do all the work, I get the awards. It's a good deal. They're very good. And I also want to say congratulations to Ms. McCarthy. Mary Meg, you do amazing, amazing work. On behalf of all immigrants, I'm an immigrant. Know what you do is amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Phil Francis and him and I always are, kidding each other. But for once, I'm not going to kid with Phil. He's an amazing person. He does so much for our city. He's helped so many non-for-profits. You know, we all love Phil because he's always there for you. He's really a great, great guy. Really great guy. Congratulations, Phil. I also have to say that we live in some scary, scary, scary times right now. Well, you know, Mr. Trump, I can't say, President, I just can't, I'm sorry. But, Mr. Trump is violating our human rights. He has to understand something, okay? Human rights trumps Trump, okay? We have to look at it that way, okay? We cannot let him take away our human rights. And a very, serious note, a good friend of mine, Rod Joy, a great guy in Chicago, and I had asked him, this is hard for me to say. I had asked him if he'd be one of the people he would be on tape for me tonight to say a few words. He agreed. 2 days later, his 23-year-old son was shot and killed. 23 years old. We cannot live in a country like that. We cannot live in a society like that. All of us must do everything possible in any way we can so we can make these awful tragedies go away. Our species is a great species. But before we get there, we have to end this violence, this senseless violence. Thank you for the word. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for your vision, your creativity, and your dedication to telling the story of Latino communities throughout the arts. And on a personal note, thank you for granting me that interview when I was a journalism student about 20 plus years ago. I really appreciate it. So now I'd like to welcome back to the stage Thomas Sainz, the President and General Counsel of MALDEF. Tom.
So you all have far exceeded the goal on the text to give. So as Phil Fuentes said to me, I'm actually down to like 5 minutes of remarks. But, it's still early, so I could really fit in an hour-long speech right now, without anybody on my board of directors complaining. I'm not sure what I can do here. But this has been an inspiring night. It has been a night that has brought us closer together in our shared mission of promoting human rights, promoting immigrants' rights, and understanding the true legacy and heritage of our country. And I begin, as always, with thanks to those who are responsible for the success of this evening, including, of course, all of you. But let me begin by acknowledging our terrific MC, Michelle Gallardo, who thank you so much for your adaptability, when we interrupted, but really for leading this evening with such grace and charm. It's a pleasure, so thank you. And I have to acknowledge and thank our MALDEF Board of Directors, several of whom are here, both past and present. We have had folks from this region, from Chicagoland, who have been among our leaders throughout the 49 years of our existence. And I want to acknowledge those who are here, ask them to stand and accept our thanks for your ongoing support of MALDEF and its mission. Board of Directors. And as at any event of this kind, we rely on volunteers on our dinner committee to help us to recruit you all, to convince you all that it's worth it to come out and spend time with us and eat some good chicken, but still chicken, and listen to some speeches that I think are always inspiring, but you always have that fear that maybe not. This year, clearly, we more than exceeded expectations. But I want to thank our dinner committee and ask them to stand and receive our gratitude for your role in making tonight a success. I have staff members who put together a terrific program every year, and they do this 4 times around the country. And I want to thank them by name and ask them to stand, beginning with our leader, Gina Montoya, our relatively new Vice President of Communications, Sandra Hernandez, Cynthia Gutierrez Alvarez, who is not here but played a major role, Heaven Ocampo, who is here, Jose Delgado, who is here, Aaron Ang, and the many others who have contributed to the success of tonight. Thank you very much. Earlier, you had the opportunity to hear from Stephen Monroy, and he introduced his colleagues, but I want to ask them once more, the staff of MALDEF and the interns who every year make us look even bigger and more powerful than we already are with their volunteer efforts. So if I could ask the Chicago staff and interns to stand once more and receive our gratitude for the work that you do. Every year, I am bowled over by the inspirational remarks that each of our honorees gives, and this year has been no exception. We managed to select folks whose standing in the community speaks for itself, and then they come on stage and deliver remarks that strike directly at the heart of what we do at MALDEF, strike directly at the heart of what's so critically important in challenging times like today. So let me once more thank for accepting this honor our honorees, the intrepid and generous Phil Fuentes, my good friend. The inspiring and committed Mary Meg McCarthy, as I mentioned, a good colleague and leader. And the wise and outspoken Carlos Tortolero, who is an icon in the community. And this year I want to ask one more former honoree, very recent former honoree, to stand, because you have already heard that this month is the 35th anniversary of the iconic Plyler versus Doe decision out of the United States Supreme Court. We are proud at MALDEF of Plyler versus Doe, not just because it was a MALDEF case, but because of its enduring importance. Today, it is important that we acknowledge the anniversary to remind too many in positions of authority and positions of imagined authority that decision establishes the law of the nation. And there are 2 critical points about Plyler versus Doe. One that gets the attention, and appropriately so, that it acknowledged that every child, regardless of immigration status, has a constitutional right to a free public education from kindergarten through 12th grade. And the court acknowledged that right, recognizing what was expected of those youth and what needed to be provided to those youth to meet those expectations. And in 35 years, what we have learned is those students, the Plyler beneficiaries, have contributed in immeasurable scope to our country's success and will continue to do so so long as that right recognized 35 years ago continues to endure. That is the critical signature holding of Plyler. But behind it was perhaps an even more important holding of the court. In the face of the state of Texas, and as you all know today as well as in the past, it's always the state of Texas. In the face of the state of Texas advocating that undocumented immigrants were not persons, quote unquote, for purposes of the United States Constitution, the Plyler versus Doe decision established clearly the Supreme Court's view and authoritative decision that person means person, and that undocumented immigrants as persons could call upon the protections of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. And that broader holding is what, regrettably, we have to remind too many people of today. So I want to recognize that Plyler versus Doe was not just an accomplished an accomplishment of lawyers. Though we certainly at Maldiv are proud of the role that our predecessors played. But it was an accomplishment of the immigrant children and their parents who stepped forward at great personal cost to challenge what the state of Texas sought to do. But it was also an accomplishment of those expert witnesses who stepped forward without knowing what the cost would be to their academic careers of stepping forward in support of undocumented students. And one of those expert witnesses, who's actually cited in the Supreme Court Plyler decision, is a former Maldiv board member, a continuing member of our subsidiary board, and a great friend and supporter through the 35 years since Plyler and beyond. And I want to acknowledge Gil Cardenas, who's here tonight. It is important in trying times like these to remember the past, sometimes the somewhat distant past, like Plyler, sometimes a more recent past. So tonight I'd like to remind us that it was only a year ago, in June of 2016, that candidate Donald Trump asserted that a United States District Court judge by the name of Gonzalo Curiel, who was born in East Chicago, Indiana, an American through and through. But candidate Trump asserted that Judge Curiel was inherently biased against him because the judge was Mexican-American and because Donald Trump was advocating the building of a wall. So it was a year ago that we learned about Donald Trump's somewhat skewed interpretation of bias, how it applied to himself or to others. It was a year ago that we had reaffirmed, following the launching of his campaign with a slur against the Mexican immigrant community, that he recognized that his policies, his posture, was likely very controversial and disliked or even hated in the Mexican American and Latino community. But he demonstrated this enduring fact about himself and his candidacy through challenging a highly respected district court judge. Perhaps recalling that will remind us of the importance, not just of a diverse bench across the country, and recognizing that so far, in a small number of appointments or a small number of nominations, President Trump has not included a single Latino or Latina among his judicial nominees. We also are reminded, by remembering what happened a year ago, that Donald Trump initially proposed a cabinet that included not a single Latino or Latina. And it was only through the demise of his first designee for labor secretary that we ended up with a single representative on the cabinet, the most important administrative body in our country. This has represented and continues to represent in the token Latino-Latina appointments in his administration so far, a historic loss and diminution in our representation as the largest minority group in the country in the federal government. Together with that, we have the rhetoric of the President, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Homeland Security, whose sole immigration policy seems to be one of rhetorical warfare against the entire immigrant community, an effort that has been, we must acknowledge, partially successful at creating an unprecedented level of fear, anxiety, and confusion in the immigrant community and the many others who are tied to the immigrant community. What a legacy to have created in your own country the kind of propagandized fear and confusion that ordinarily you would see in warfare against one's enemy in his own country. We have also seen a president who has created a commission, an election integrity commission, to back up his completely unsupported allegation that millions of immigrants fraudulently voted against him in November 2016. It's fair to say, and I have characterized it this way publicly, that this should better be named the Area 51 Commission, because voter fraud is about as frequent as documented UFO sightings in this country. It's a snipe hunt, but they're going to undergo it in order to undercut every person's right, every citizen's right, and every future citizen's right to full participation in our democracy. This is the legacy of an administration that is less than 200 days old. But I will note, on a hopeful note, I hope, for those who see the glass as half full, that last week, sometime between Thursday and Friday, we passed the 10% point of the Trump-Pence administration. Really. We moved into double digits. Now that's positive. We've gotten through 10%, put aside there's 90% left, whether it's headed at the end by Trump or because of scandal, Pence. 90% left, but we have gotten into the double digits. And what I note is that we have survived this 10% far better off than we might have assumed in November 2016 or January 2017. And that is a testament to those who have risen up, stepped forward, and challenged what has been promoted, resisted the policies being implemented, and demonstrated their ongoing commitment to the values and principles of this nation. Now, whether you see that 10% accomplishment as an inspiration or a daunting demonstration of what we still have to endure, I think it's an appropriate time to recommit ourselves to full resistance to what may come forward in the ensuing 3.5+ years. I will say before my next remark that at MALDEF we are incredible supporters and fans of sanctuary cities, sanctuary campuses, sanctuary jurisdictions across the country. Indeed, as you may have heard, we are representing a sanctuary city, the city of San Antonio, where we were founded, in challenging Texas's notorious SB 4 in court. We will soon have Bexar County, the county where we were founded, join as one of our clients in challenging SB 4. And I believe we will soon have great victories to celebrate, though momentarily as the fight continues, in preventing that law which would license every Texas police officer, sheriff's deputy, and other law enforcement official, license them to make their own individual decisions about whether and how to enforce federal immigration law. You may have heard this in the media described as a show me your papers law. It's much worse. It is a vigilantes with badges law that would allow every police officer to decide on his or her own how and whether to enforce immigration laws. And it puts in place a series of deterrents, criminal prosecution, exorbitant fines, even removal from elective office to prevent anyone who ordinarily would guide and restrict those officers in going about their duties, to prevent police chiefs, elected sheriffs, elected city council members, elected mayors, elected judges from doing anything to guide those vigilantes with a badge from doing whatever they want in Texas to the immigrant community. So we are big fans of sanctuary jurisdictions. We represent them in court. We will defend them to the very end of our organizational existence. But at this 10% point in this administration, I challenge us to demand of ourselves, because these jurisdictions, sanctuary cities, campuses, counties, health clinics are ours. I challenge us to recommit after 10% to do more. Far more than sanctuary cities, we need inclusion cities. We need incubation cities. We need equity cities. We need cities that not only provide sanctuary, but demonstrate through investment and ongoing commitment their devotion to a deep and comprehensive resistance, but a deep and resonating affirmance of the constitutional values that have made this nation the great nation it is today. We need to challenge ourselves after 10% to recommit to doing what is necessary to ensure not just resistance to policies promulgated by this administration, but to eliminating the conditions in this country that made it possible for a long-shot presidential candidate to launch his campaign with a slur against Mexican immigrants, to reaffirm that attitude with a slur against a life-tenured Mexican-American judge, to continue in his rhetoric to diminish and demean the contributions of Mexican immigrants, Latino immigrants, and other immigrants to this country. Indeed, I would assert that in the Latino community, we have a particular responsibility to eliminate the underlying conditions that made it possible for that long-shot candidate to succeed. What that means is not just resistance to policy, but changing the ongoing absence and underrepresentation of the Latino community, now representing more than 1 in 6 of all Americans. We must prevent and address the ongoing absence and underrepresentation of the Latino community in positions of authority throughout the country, in corporate America, in the arts, in the law, in academia. Across the board, we must insist that the implicit expectation that as we became the largest minority group in the country, we would accept a lower level of representation than other communities. We must unite to address and prevent that ongoing violation of the principles of this country. When we do that, we will contribute to creating the inclusion cities, the equity campuses, the incubation clinics that will be the enduring legacy of our resistance to wrong-headed, mean-spirited policies in immigration and beyond. This is a nationwide struggle that must involve us all, so that when that judge, born in East Chicago, sitting in San Diego, is slandered, we step forward united across the country in his defense. That when the immigrant father, taken from the courthouse, as Mary Meg described, in the Midwest, when his story is known, we unified across the country step up and say no. That when we are asked to accept a cabinet with historically low representation of our community, we step forward and say no. With this renewed commitment after 10%, with this understanding that deep resistance, comprehensive resistance, requires deeper, long-standing change to our expectations, to our understanding of what we ought to demand from our government and ourselves, I know that we will emerge from these 4 years as a community, not just as a Latino community, but as a nationwide community, stronger, more united, more dedicated to what has truly made our nation great. And I know that with the kind of commitment, the kind of inspiration, the kind of beautiful reunion that we've seen tonight, MALDEF, together with all of you, will be at the forefront of that 4-year victory. Thank you all for your ongoing collaboration, partnership, and support as we strive toward that shared goal.